My 30m girlfriend, 28 farads, of 7 years, cheated on me and got pregnant. I just need someone to give it to me straight. I just need to get all of this off of my chest because I have no one to vent to in my personal life about this. I just need someone to read this and tell me what I need to do. Forgive me if this is long. Sober and I have been dating since 2015, and I love her. There's no doubt that I love her, and I know she loves me too. We're so integrated into each other's lives that it's hard to picture a life in the future without her. Let me back up a bit. For the last few years, our relationship has stagnated. It's had its ups and downs surely, but the past few years has been neither particularly good nor terrible. We have had issues with intimacy, however. The chemistry wasn't there in the same it had been in the past. This issue brought me extreme insecurity and anxiety, and understandably made her insecure as well. To cut a long story short, it got so bad that one day in July 2022 I get off of work and all of her stuff is gone. She had bought a new house and told me I wasn't coming with her. I was devastated. I had to move back to my mom's house 100 miles away and rearrange my entire life without any notice. During that entire time we remained in contact and began to slowly make up. I get inspired to make the changes I needed to patch up the relationship, and I was ashamed it took so much to get that going. Soon enough I start doing really well. She's proud of me and happy with the strides that I'm taking. She won't let me visit her house, but we're going on dates and having sex more when we get time together. But she's getting visibly more depressed as time goes on. This puzzles me, and I get really worried about her. She starts having more issues with her health, constant nausea, gallbladder surgery, and has a fall/concussion at work. She's very overwhelmed, but I'm there for her. And I'm very stressed because she's always been depressed and is a busy person, so she always has a lot going on, so she's always balancing. Cut to about a month ago. Her and I are having a very emotional discussion about the issues I've had in the past. And it's here she admitted to me that she had a miscarriage and it wasn't mine. I was floored. She apparently had a sex with this man pretty soon after I had moved out and got pregnant during the first encounter. And since she was already pregnant, she told me that she had a sex with him at least twice more. This hurt me deeply, and still does. But at the time I knew I had been a pretty awful boyfriend in the past. And like I said, I love her so much and can't picture my life without her, so I thought this would be something I could work past. It would take time, but I thought that I could do it. Everything started making sense. All the health issues and various other events started fitting together. The fall at work was her going to the hospital for the miscarriage. It was just all lies, and I was entirely oblivious because I never suspected her to be capable of this. Now we jump to a few days ago. I call her to say good night, and this guy answers the phone, and I immediately know who it was. It turns out that during the pregnancy she gave him a key to her house, which I've never set foot in BDW, and he's been coming over periodically and flipping his shitty at her for talking to me and laying his hands on her. Not striking, but gripping her to the point of bruising. Immediately my biggest concern is her safety. I tried to get her to stay at her mother's house, but she just won't. Mind you, she just got approved to move into a new apartment and is looking into renting out the house because of this scenario. In the meantime, she doesn't seem to think that she's at any sort of risk of harm, and we got into a huge fight about it tonight. And at this point I'm just so exhausted of worrying about this person that deeply betrayed me. She's cried over it and talked about how much she's regretted this and how this was such a huge mistake that's caused a chain of events, etc., etc. I've always trusted her. I had never pinned her for a liar or cheat, but I guess I drove her to that point. I believe she regrets. But this is such a giant mess now. I can't stop asking myself, how did I get here? I don't think there's anything salvaging this, but I can't seem to let go. What do I do? Story 2. My fiancé cheated on me with my father. Me 27 male, fiancé 26 female, call her L. My father 52 meters, call him B. My mother 50F, call her R. Like many who've had something like this happen, I never thought something like this would happen to me, but here we are. I've never used Reddit, but I've seen stories from here on TikTok, so I thought I'd give this a shot for any advice you all could give me. From listening to some other stories, you all like backstory, I'll try and be as clear and precise as I can. But it's only been a week, so if I start to lose it during the telling of this, I'm sorry. Elle and I met in her freshman year of college. We were both dorm in the same building where we eventually met. We later found out we lived 2 towns away from each other, so whenever we went home, I let her drive with me. It was only added like 20 minutes, so it was no big deal. After multiple trips and hanging out at school, we started to date. I have a close-knit family, as did she, so we told our families right away. I had met her plenty of times when dropping her off, but it was nothing more than an introduction and exchanging pleasantries. Both of our families accepted each other with open arms, and our relationship grew. I was a year ahead of her, so when I graduated, I went home where I was offered a good job with great pay. I visited her at school whenever I got the chance, and whenever she came home, we would make time for each other. After she graduated, she moved in with me as both of our jobs were in the city near where we grew up. Like me, she was offered a position at the company she works at now with great pay. After living together for about 3 years, I proposed, and we have been planning our wedding since. Now on to the part you're all reading for. Looking back, there was plenty of things I overlooked that I just wrote off, thinking my father was just trying to welcome my ex into our family. Things like my father calling her all the time, and if I was around, they would just tell me they were talking about the upcoming family party or something along those lines. One time Elle was in the shower, and her phone rang. I seen it was my dad, so I answered. When he realized it was me, he sounded both upset and surprised that I picked up. I then asked what's up. He responded that he wanted to talk to Elle about my mother's birthday that was in a week, and after a minute we ended a call. Even typing this out now, I feel like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. On the day I found out, it was like any other day. Elle had Thursdays off, so she made breakfast for both of us. When I set out for work, she gave me a kiss and told me to have a great day. During my drive to work, I realized I had forgotten some paperwork I would need for a meeting I had at 3 p.m. I shrugged it off and told myself I would just go home at lunch to get it. Elle texted me throughout the day talking about all the casual stuff a couple talks about, like what do you want for dinner? I did the laundry. Do you want me to hang it up for you? Blah blah blah. I didn't think it necessary to text her I was coming home for lunch, so when it came around, I just left work and went home. When I got home, I noticed a car that looked like my father's in our parking lot, but I didn't think anything of it and just parked and went into our building. When I opened the door, I was met with a scene out of a movie where a man comes home early and catches his spouse cheating. Such a cliche. There was a trail of clothes, both his and hers, leading to my bedroom, and the sound of faint moans echoed through my apartment. I stood at the door in utter shock. My brain was a mix of rage, sadness, and disgust, but if you were a fly on my wall, you would see what looked like a statue. I just couldn't move. When I finally snapped to, not knowing how much time had passed, I took out my phone to record. I picked up all the clothes that were on the floor and threw them into the hall of the building. After, I filmed the walk to my bedroom. The door was open. I stood in the doorway filming for about a minute, then flipped on the lights. They both jumped at the sudden light and looked at me, and to my utter shock, it was my father in the bed with her. After the initial stun, my father noticed I was recording and started to panic, trying to find anything to cover himself and telling me to stop recording. He found a towel and wrapped it around himself and started to walk toward me. I told him, if you don't want to get hurt, stop coming to me. He either didn't care or didn't hear me and reached for my phone. I hit him square on the jaw. His head bounced off the door and slumped to the ground. Elle shrieked. I aimed the camera at Elle and said, concerned about your body, but nothing to say to your fiancé. My father woke up after about a minute nap, and I told him I just needed to come pick something up for work, so I'm heading back now. If either of you pieces of are here when I get back, I'll send this video to everyone you know. I ended the video, looked at my dad, who was still coming to, and said, you're dead to me. You're no longer my father. But you might want to go home and talk to Mom, because I'll be talking to her very soon. I sat in my car for a while until one of the bosses at work called to ask where I was. I told her I was on my way back right now. When I got to her office to hand her the paperwork, I must have looked awful because she started asking what was wrong with me. I told her it was nothing and I'd be okay. I could see her scanning me up and down, and she noticed some blood on my collar and stood up, rushed to me and said, you're bleeding. I looked down and said it was my father's. She looked confused, so I pulled out my phone and showed her the video. She watched it in its entirety. She was introduced to Elle a few times, but never my father. She sat there silent for a moment until it finally clicked that my fiancé was cheating on me, but not only was she cheating, it was with my father. She asked if there was anything she could do, suggesting I take some time off, but I told her I can't go back there right now, that I just need a minute and I'd be fine for the meeting, and I have another shirt in my office. The meeting went over fine. I put on a smile for everyone like nothing had happened. My boss came up to me after the meeting and asked how I could do that, but I just said I don't know and went to my office. I then came home, and I was alone for the first time in a very long time. Thank you for reading. I'm sorry I carried on so much, but it was therapeutic getting everything down. I just don't know what to do. I defiantly need to get the hell out of this apartment. I just can't live here anymore, and there's no possible way I'm sleeping in that bed. I know not only do I have to go get checked out for STDs, but I think I broke something in my hand. So there you have it, guys. If you need more videos like these on deep darkest confessions, then smash that like button and subscribe now and stay tuned for more videos like these.